everybody, this is Lee with Creative2xmom, and it's time once again to share the books that we read this month. So welcome back to my channel. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you will enjoy this video about the books that we read this month. If you're new to my channel, Creative2xmom is all about parenting, homeschooling, some recipes, lots and lots of good books, and thriving in the day-to-day. So hit that subscription button down below and follow along in our journey. So today's video is in collaboration with two of my favorite reading book friends. It's April at The Simple Rugged Path, as well as Ingrid at Mommy and Mia Homeschool Chronicles. The three of us love to read, and they invited me to co-host this collaboration with them. So I'm so excited to come to you guys sharing books that we read this month. I'm going to link both of their channels down below, as well as the playlist, and this is also an open collaboration. So if you would like to take part, just create a video like this one. Make sure that you shout out to the three hosts this month and include the playlist in your description box. So let's start talking about some of my personal reads for the month. I finished 3 books and I started a 4th, just didn't quite have time to finish it, so I'm going to share that one in February. Make sure you come back February 28th for the next video in this series. But the first book I read was called A Mom's Guide to the Lies That Girls Believe. This is by Dana Gresh. And I had previously read Lies That Girls Believe. Both of these books were for reviews, and I will link my full written review down below. But the first one was the Mom's Guide. I read that one starting at the beginning of the year, and it was pretty good. I think I have a pretty open relationship with my daughter. She's still pretty young. She's 11. She just turned 11. I have to remember that. And we homeschool, and we have a pretty good dialogue. So much as I really liked Lies That Girls Believe, and I felt it was beneficial, I wasn't quite as impressed with the Mom's Guide. I know that there are a couple other ladies who are reading that as well, so I would be interested in hearing their thoughts. But I felt like there was extra information in that, but if you had the girls version and you had a pretty open dialogue with your daughter, a lot of it was pretty common sense. I would suggest reading it with your daughter. It opens up some issues that I would want to be involved in how my daughter sees those things, and so I would suggest reading it with her and having that discussion time, but I don't know about the Mom's Guide. I'm curious if any of you have read it, and I'm curious to hear your feedback on it as well. Like I said, I'm going to link my full review down below. The next book I read was called Renew. It's by Julie Winters. She's a local author here to this area, and I have had that on ebook for a very long time, and it's about overcoming anxiety and depression. A lot of times you'll hear advice about, well, you know, just think about how great your life is, just be praying over it, just give it over to God. And while I believe all those things are good, there is a second component to it, health-wise, spiritual-wise, and she comes at it from a Christian healthcare perspective. She is a doctor, and so that to me gave it a little bit more credibility. She spends about the first 2/3 of the book talking about what is anxiety, what is depression, how the two work together, how they're different, but she also talks about a lot of the spiritual roots, how what we take in affects what we feel like. If you're taking in garbage, you're going to feel like garbage. She also talks about unforgiveness. She talks about allowing lies to plant themselves in our heart. And she also talks a lot about identity, meditating on certain scriptures that talk about who we are in Christ, knowing who Christ is, reflecting on his goodness to us, remembering the times that he's been there and brought us through things in the past. So there was a lot of spiritual for probably the first 2/3 of the book, which I felt was really good because it really narrowed in on the heart of anxiety and depression, and then it can have a spiritual basis. She also talked about the physical end of things and how it's a chemical imbalance a lot of times as well, and some of the things to address in that. And then very much so at the probably very last third, she talked about very practical things: diet, nutrition, exercise, sleep being a big component, being able to have a sense of humor, being able to laugh at life and laugh at the days to come, and just being very lighthearted. Now, I don't think this is a book that would address all the issues of very severe anxiety or very severe depression. This is a book well worth looking into. I know I came away from the reading with a lot of tools, a lot of notes, and a lot of thoughts about how to begin incorporating some of these different exercises in my own life. So it was really good. It was one that I've kind of had on the back burner for a long time, but I'm actually really glad I finally made the time to read it. The third book I read was called Under the Midnight Sun. And this is the third book in a trilogy as well. This is the Heart of Alaska series. And I have been highly anticipating this book. I think these books have been coming out every January for the past 3 years. So it's been about a year where I sped through book number 2, and I've been waiting for book number 3 to come out. So good. I know that the author said at the beginning of this book that this was the final installment in the series, and it was kind of heartbreaking. There was a good wrap up at the end, but each of these books has focused on a different main character. And so this book focused on Thomas, who was in foster care. He's an orphan. He's kind of found this family at the Curry Hotel as they've built up this business and they're opening up Alaska. They're taking people on tours, and he's kind of in a place of just trying to figure out who he is, how he fits. He knows he loves his job. He loves this family that he's created, but he wants a family that's just his. And then we introduce, of course, the love interest, and can their relationship survive, because he carries a lot of baggage with him. And then you've also got a couple of little side stories going on, and in the end it all wraps up very nicely. But I am so sad to see this series go. I'm gonna have to start looking for a new one, and you know, when you get into a series of books, it's hard to roll into the next group. So I need suggestions. Leave me suggestions down below of a series that you've enjoyed. Now, as far as what we read with the kids this month, this apparently was the month for read alouds. I felt like we read a ton. We read a book called Tornado. And this was a super easy, fast read. I could have handed this to my second grader and he probably would have flown through it in the first day, but we added it to our morning basket. We're going to be doing some weather-related topics coming up here real soon, so I thought it would just be a fun way to combine language arts, morning time, and our science curriculum. So we all really loved that one. We also, in our morning time, read The Best School Year Ever. If you guys followed along with us at Christmas time, we read The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, and I wasn't really sure about the book in the beginning, and then in the end we really didn't want it to end, so we picked up The Best School Year Ever by the same author, and we have been reading this in our morning basket as well. It's only 9 chapters, so it's a pretty quick read. I needed to cut morning time short the other day, and I said to the kids, well, we might not read in this book, and they just had a fit. They were willing to cut everything out as long as we were able to read a chapter in that book, because they wanted to hear it. Super funny. Along the same lines, I still think The Best Christmas Pageant Ever is better, but this was a fun way to continue on with the family. In the car, we've been listening to audiobooks. First of all, we listened to All of a Kind Family. If you are looking for the complete antithesis of The Best School Year Ever, this family is super wholesome. They have great morals and great lessons for your kids in this story. It's a Jewish family in New York, I believe, and they have 5 little girls. They are all similar, which is the all of a kind. They are all kind of cut from the same cloth. and it's their lessons about being with their family and hard work and just making good choices. Very, very sweet, cute book. We've also been listening to The Wild Robot. I wasn't sure I would like this one at first because there's a lot of like personalization of the robot, which I'm not really into, but you find this robot who gets stranded on an island, and she picks up the animal language just out of her natural curiosity, because you have a machine that's constantly learning about its environment. And she picks up the animal language for each of the different animals in the woods, and she begins to speak to them. She realizes one day that she killed a mother goose and it had an egg, so she decides she's going to raise this egg. She ends up having this son, which is super sweet, and in the end, it's a lot about her ending up making the sacrifice of her freedom for this family that she's created, and it's very, very sweet. I ran into Barnes & Noble the other day and realized that there's a sequel, and as much as I wasn't sure I was going to like this story, I'm contemplating actually purchasing the second book because we really have enjoyed it. So if your library has it, definitely check that one out. Now, back in August, I also shared our book list. I try to do one read aloud a month, which January we kind of blew that away. So in August, I shared a video with our 10 read alouds for the school year, and one of them was Stuart Little. But my daughter reminded me that I have read this book several times with her and her older brother, but my 7-year-old didn't remember it. And that was really the purpose of adding it to the list this year anyway, was for his benefit. So I pulled out a Lapbook unit from Confessions of a Homeschooler, and we've actually been going through this one together, just the second grader and I. And he is absolutely in love with Stuart. He opened it the other day. At the time that you guys are seeing this video, he will be finished, but today he opened it, he has 2 chapters left, and he was like, oh, I don't want to be done with Stuart. I was really wishing E.B. White would have written a sequel to this one, because Stuart is sweet, and he's also great for just good morals, learning through other people's mistakes. We really love E.B. White's work, and Stuart Little is a classic. And the last read aloud that we did, which was also mentioned in that video, is The Black Stallion. This is by Walter Farley. I loved this series when I was around the age of my older 2, and so I was hoping that I could hook somebody on this series. I don't know yet. I think I might have a glimmer of hope with my 11-year-old, but it was nice to revisit all the characters from this series. These are classic books, and there is a ton of them, so I'm hoping I've got somebody hooked somewhere. But if you have a child that is a little horse crazy at all, this is a great place to start. So that was all our books for the month of January. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you are loving. And of course, if you create a video like this one, add it to the playlist. I'd love to check out your recommendations and to see what you are reading in your home. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.